What does a closing attorney do, and why do you need one for a closing transaction? Well, if you are buying a house through a bank, you have to have an attorney in order to do title work. The title work is composed of checking that the legal right to that property can be transferred. In other words, as the closing attorney, I check that the seller actually owns the piece of property and they properly bought it from the previous seller, and they bought it properly from the previous seller going back at least 30 years. I have to make sure this chain of title is unbroken so that when you buy a piece of property, you actually own it. Now, the second part of that is also checking that there are no judgments or liens against the property. The ones we usually run across are mortgages. So if I find a mortgage, then that mortgage will have to be paid off as part of closing. But we also check judgments to make sure that there's no outstanding lawsuits against the piece of property or the owners, or there's any other civil liens that we wouldn't otherwise know about just looking at the piece of property. The closing attorneys do not, however, check the quality of the house and whether there's any leaks or repairs that need to be done. That is not a legal issue. That is more the purview of the inspector and your home visits. Now, the third thing the closing attorney does is collects all the funds and disperses. We collect funds from the bank, we collect funds from the buyer and any other interested parties. Once all the funds are collected, then we proceed with the closing. All the documents are signed. We record the necessary documents at the Register of Deeds, and then we start dispersing funds, and that's paying inspectors, that is paying other fees, that is paying off mortgages, and whatever is left over will be proceeds to the seller.